Hi guys, welcome back to my channel where we talk about fragrances. My name is Helena and today we're going to talk about clean girl vibe fragrances. Now, as you could tell by my previous videos, if you've ever watched any of my previous videos, I'm not the kind of girl who really aligns her style with the clean girl, that girl kind of aesthetic. But I still enjoy some clean girl kind of fragrances because they tend to be very fresh, clean, uplifting, and also work appropriate and sometimes even calming. So I can go for them even if I don't necessarily embrace the style. And so don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, dislike, hit the notification bell down below, and let's get started. Now, I don't have with me any of the fragrances that I'm going to talk about, but I will insert their picture in the screen here, there, somewhere, and that was loud. And anyway, I don't own the majority of these fragrances, at least I don't own the original bottles of these fragrances because sometimes they tend to be very, very expensive but not very well performing because it's the nature generally of fresher, cleaner fragrances to be a little bit lacking in projection and lasting power. So I prefer to have something that costs a little bit less and I can spray without any problem and without thinking of losing, I don't know, €1 for every spray that I take. So let's get started. The first one that I'm going to talk about is a designer fragrance and it's Narciso Poudré. And I have the original one actually of this one and it is from obviously Narciso Rodriguez. And it is obviously from Narciso Rodriguez and it is a musky, almost sweet, even if I don't think that there is any sweet note in it. And it's obviously powdery as the name says. I think that it has some orris root in it, but I can definitely smell some orange blossom. And last summer I kept on smelling it in the air in Milan and I thought it was actually a lighter powderier version of Libre by Yves Saint Laurent, which I really love. I actually own the intense version because I like it a little bit more. I find it a little bit less masculine, and this is a little bit less punchy than the Libre Intense, but also a little bit less masculine than the original Libre. And as with all Narciso Rodriguez fragrances, there is a lot of musk. And this one manages to be a very clean, work-appropriate fragrance, also summer-appropriate fragrance. It's not cloying at all, but it still is well performing. It still projects. It still lasts a long time, and it's not your typical clean fragrance. It's more interesting because of this powderiness that it has to it. And so check it out. Narciso Rodriguez Narciso Poudré. Check it out. Then I have a Malone one, and in this particular case I would recommend finding a good dupe for it because unfortunately this really lacks performance-wise. And also, Jo Malone doesn't even own the company anymore. I think that L'Oreal does, or Estee Lauder, I'm not sure. But Jo Malone, it's not even involved anymore in the process of creating and selling the fragrances. And this is, anyway, Wood Sage and Sea Salt, which is one of the best fragrances ever, in my opinion, smell-wise. But unfortunately, it's not really well performing. And this is so beautiful. It is, at least I smell a citrus fragrance with some aquatic notes, which are not marine, but, well, I smell a little bit of cologne, but it's really almost unperceivable. But it's aquatic in a sense of fresh, almost mouth-watering. So not marine, but aquatic. It's not salty, even if salt is literally in the name. It's aquatic, like when you smell peony fragrances, like Bright Crystal from Versace. That kind of sensation, that kind of mouth-watering, thirst-quenching aquaticness. And I actually don't smell a lot of aromatic notes. I don't really smell a lot of woodiness. Maybe the woods are in the base to give it a little bit more body and make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, it's a beautiful concoction of aquatic notes and citruses and a little bit of cologne and probably woodiness in the base. And it's so beautiful, and unfortunately it doesn't last a long time, but I have the dupe and I bathe in it, and people can actually smell it after I spray it like 40, 100,000 of times. But yeah, I still recommend it. I would absolutely buy the dupe of it. And so check it out, Wood Sage and Sea Salt. Then this fragrance that I'm going to talk about is great to layer underneath all the fragrances that I'm going to present to you, and also the two ones that I already talked about. And it is Molecule 01 by Escentric Molecule, and it is actually a one note fragrance. The only note in this fragrance is Iso Super or Iso Super, I don't know. I always heard talking about it in French, so Iso Super. And it is a woody, almost papery note. You can also try Molecule 02 or Another Perfume from Juliette Ezegan. I'm not a huge fan of Ambroxan, unfortunately. At least on my skin, it becomes a very sharp aquatic note. And as you could have guessed, I like aquatic notes, but that one becomes very sharp, almost as when you are drinking some kind of bottled water, you know, mineral water that is very heavy on some minerals, and you can almost taste it like it's bitter. So yeah, there is different kind of sensation associated with watery aquatic notes. I don't know if it does make sense. I hope it does. Let me know in the comments if you know what I'm talking about and if you share my experience. But at least I'm not a huge fan of Ambroxan, but if it works for you, absolutely try it out, because this kind of molecules, this kind of molecular fragrances that are actually ambery woods are great for fixating fragrances on your skin. You can also use them with more wintry kind of fragrances, but I find that they give them a lightness and almost make them a little bit more unisex and really lower the grade of sweetness in those kind of fragrances, and I generally prefer that those fragrances stay the way they are, stay very powerful, very feminine, and very sweet, because it's just my taste. But you can layer them, these kind of molecular fragrances, also under wintry fragrances, wintry, sweet, very feminine fragrances. I would say that it's a wood, dry, papery, but almost a little bit citrusy kind of fragrance. It's really difficult to explain. You have to try it to understand, but it's great to layer under fresh, clean fragrances, because it brings out more of that freshness, more of that cleanness. They are good fixators, these fragrances, but they also bring out some kind of notes, like some kind of woodiness, some kind of citrusiness. It really depends on your skin, and it really depends on the molecule that you're going to use. But yeah, as a person that doesn't really like Ambroxan, I would recommend molecule 01. Anyway, there are also other molecules in this range of Escentric molecules. There is, I think, a Cashmeran kind of molecule. I think that, I don't know, there are other molecules. So check the range out, and they also mix these molecules with maybe one ingredient like iris, patchouli. It's a very interesting brand to explore, I think. So check it out. Molecule 1 by Escentric molecule. Eccentric molecules. Yes. Then the other ones, I don't have even the samples with me. But the first one that I'm going to talk about, it's a beautiful, very projecting, very long-lasting fragrance for this kind of fragrances. And it is Rehab from Initio Parfums. Rehab, I think that it has tobacco in it, but it's a very clean, round tobacco. If I can describe Rehab and the next fragrance that I'm going to talk about with a texture, I would say that it is around sharpness. I don't know if, well, it's almost an oxymoron, but it's not, because it has that kind of cleanness. Almost there is a little bit of spiciness, but fresh spiciness, and I'm not sure that there is citrus in it, but yes, there is this kind of very uplifting, almost mouth-watering kind of freshness to it, but it still manages to be warm and cozy and very rounded, very soft. Even if it's so strong, it's such a strange fragrance. It's also something that you have to try to actually understand what it is. I think that, yeah, it's classified as, I'm sorry. It's classified as aromatic, I think, but it has some sweetness. It's not that punchy, very sharp, aromatic, very masculine. It's absolutely unisex in the more traditional meaning of the term, and it's beautiful, it's interesting. You can wear it, I think, for any occasion. I think that it could be very sexy also, if with sexy you mean like cuddling on the sofa and then going somewhere else. So I would give it a go. I also think that it smells a little bit like Spice Bomb from Viktor and Rolf. I wanted to compare them on my skin, but I still didn't do it because I'm lazy. but yeah, I can definitely smell something similar. So yeah, check out Rehab from Initio Parfums. Then another one that has that same kind of sharp roundness and also reminds me a little bit of Rehab is Bal d'Afrique by Byredo. I own the dupe of Bal d'Afrique because Byredo is such a very interesting brand. They are almost the black sheep of niche fragrances because they don't generally do very strong punchy fragrances. Of course, there are some punchy fragrances in their range, but they are mostly known for their very delicate, soft, but still very interesting fragrances. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the creativity behind the brand, but unfortunately, at least probably the reformulations of their fragrances are very lacking performance-wise. So I have the dupe of it, but I still really enjoy it. I smell a very sweet citrus, almost lemon. I don't know if there is lemon. I'm just talking about my impressions of the fragrances. I don't know if you can see, but I'm keeping on spitting, and I don't know, I'm human, deal with that. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm spitting everywhere like a llama today. But yes, that's what happens sometimes. Anyway, yeah, I smell this very sweet lemon, which is also a little bit woody, very soft. And I have to say, it wasn't love at first sniff. It was like, at first sniff, it was like, oh yes, it's nice. It's a nice fragrance, but it isn't really all that jazz. Then last summer, I had to do many medical checkups, generally in the mornings, and I wanted to wear something that made me feel cozy but also fresh because it gets very, very hot in Milan during summer, and also something that was appropriate for a hospital, that wouldn't be super offensive and cloying, also for myself, not just for the other patients but also for myself. But I didn't want something super sharp, super clean, because hospitals already give me this kind of very cold vibes that I don't necessarily resonate with. And I tried the sample of Bal d'Afrique, and all the time I was feeling so happy, and I was just smelling myself and thinking like, I smell so good. I really smell so good. I really love the way I smell. I really love this fragrance. So yeah, I really felt in love with it. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not the longer lasting fragrance. It's not the most projecting fragrance. It's something that it's for you. And so I love that. I love when fragrances are thought to be just for the wearer and not necessarily to impress anyone else. But yeah, at the same time, the performance is so low on this one that I'm sorry, I wouldn't really recommend the original one if you cannot afford it or if you don't want to afford it. But still, it's a beautiful, beautiful, interesting fragrance. So check out Bal d'Afrique by Byredo. Then let's get back to the designer fragrances, and I would absolutely recommend Pure Poison by Dior. Also in this case, buy the dupe, because the original one doesn't last, doesn't project, It has a beautiful bottle, so I'm still thinking about buying it just because it looks pretty on the perfume tray. But, you know, it's crazy expensive for a designer brand. And I know that Dior is such a high-end brand, but also is Dolce & Gabbana, also is Oscar de la Renta, and they don't cost as much. And in the case of Oscar de la Renta, it's also a very old brand, and also Balenciaga, they are still very old brands, or Cacharel, or Chloé, they are all very expensive brands. If you come to their accessories, their clothes, they are very, very high-end and very expensive. Also Michael Kors, but still they don't cost as much as Chanel and Dior, and sometimes their fragrances are better than Dior's fragrances. So I'm sorry, even if I really like the bottle and it's very iconic, I know that the reformulation of the fragrance is weaker than the original, and honestly it doesn't have a good performance, but the smell, it's so beautiful. It's a citrusy jasmine. It's almost like a scented tissue, if you know what I mean. It's very clean but still feminine. It's a beautiful fragrance. It's like a beautiful woman that is also youthful, that is also I don't know, very luminous, and who is also very clean. So yeah, I love Pure Poison, and so I absolutely recommend it. So the last fragrance that I'm going to talk about is also the least expensive, but it's such a staple that I think that everyone should own it, unless they really, really, really despise it. But I think that it's difficult to really despise it. But yeah, it is Green Tea by Elizabeth Arden, and it is a green tea with citruses and with a lot of vegetables. I think that you can find celery in the notes, and it was formulated by the very, very renowned Francis Kurkdjian, the father of Baccarat Rouge, and it's a very, very well formulated fragrance. Does it last? No. How much does it cost? Like 17 euros for 100 mils. So, who cares if it doesn't last a long time? I actually really like to wear it when I'm doing my house chores. I really like to wear it when I declutter my stuff, when I clean my room, when I clean my house. It's a very fresh, clean, calming kind of fragrance. I get that it could be a little bit too sharp for some noses, but generally I don't think that it is such a very polarizing fragrance. And also it doesn't last so much, and it doesn't project as much that you can actually annoy people. So that's it. And so if you like green tea, I also would try, probably, even if it's not in this video, I would try matcha meditations from Maison Margiela, the replica range, because it is a little bit softer than this. It has a softer, sweeter dry down because it has white chocolate in the notes. But you know, the original, the more famous green tea fragrance is Elizabeth Arden's green tea. So yeah, it's a staple. It's very, very inexpensive, so check it out. It really gives clean girl vibes, and you can also take it with you around if you feel that you need a little bit of a refresh. You can spray it without really caring about how much you spend with every spray. And the only problem with the bottle, I think, that is that the sprayer is pretty hard, and also it doesn't spray a lot. But other than that, it's a very, very pretty, I would say unisex, unoffensive fragrance that is fresh, clean, calming, all the things that I said in the beginning of the video. So check it out. And with that, I would end this video. I hope that you liked it. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, dislike, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below. And that was it. I'll see you the next time. Bye!